Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to our very first Level Up Your Leadership. So me and Lisa decided we wanted to do something. We've been talking about it for a few months. We decided we wanted to do something that is just for leaders, for lead and above. Something that's going to be relevant to you guys. It's not just about building your business and the basics and the fundamentals of being a sensitive business owner, but actually talking about leading. So we've decided we're going to do a regular training. We're not going to set a date to it just because obviously life happens. You'll just watch out for your emails, and it'll just get, when we're ready to do one, we'll just email you guys out, and it'll always be available on playback as well. So we really appreciate you guys coming, and we hope you take something from it. Use the chat box as much as you want. And yeah, just hopefully you guys will get lots out of it. So we wanted to make it very specific. We've got lots of different ideas of things that we want to talk to you guys about that's going to be relevant for your business. It's basically, with one of the first things we wanted to talk about was, I think what we're going to do is each week we're going to talk about things that we have noticed you guys talking about. So what we feel is relevant, what people are coming to us and saying, what we feel you guys are talking about, and we're going to kind of like take our topics and things that we're going to talk about from that. So when me and Lisa were talking tonight about what we wanted to talk, we were obviously literally talking about an hour ago because I've been in hospital all day with Lily. We decided to do it all an hour ago. What we wanted to talk about tonight was, the first thing we wanted to mention was the fact that a lot of people have been saying, and it might not be you, it might not be relevant for you, but a lot of people have been talking about the fact that their team are no longer working, that their team are no longer doing things, that
stopped.
Yeah, that their team has stopped. And that's just that not everybody, absolutely not everybody, that's not going to be relevant for everybody, but it's something that we've heard a lot. So we just wanted to really start off this call by stressing how normal that is, how completely normal it is for you to have team members that start doing Sensi, and they might even be like, literally look like they're going to absolutely like go to the moon, and then they just stop. Particularly, I feel like we're coming to the end of it now, but obviously it was massively high end during hypergrowth. A lot of people experience, I experienced it when I look at my whole downline, I experienced it in the thousands, of people who simply stopped working, people who were working and they weren't. The one thing that I can never ever stress enough to anybody who wants to actively build a business is that you've never ever made it. Like, it's never ever. I know that it's obviously the whole point of this business is a residual income. That's why it's such a beautiful business model, because you get paid for work that you've done once and you get paid for it over and over and over again. But you can't ever say stop. If you want to actively build a massive business, you cannot build a team and think, right, I've got 10 people, I've done it now, that's it. Now those 10 people can go build a business, and then they can build a business. You just cannot rely on those people. You cannot actively say that I've done it and that's it. If I'd have stopped building during hypergrowth, I don't know if I'd still be able to be, probably need to put the income disclosure in here just in case we do talk about money, but I don't know if I could financially rely on my business because of the building I've done since. Oh, it didn't work for you.
Earlier.
I know, since hypergrowth ended, sponsoring never stops. And I know me and Lisa are both really heavily focused on sponsoring a lot, particularly during February, and getting people actively sponsoring again, because sponsoring became super easy, and it's just getting people back in the habit of sponsoring. So your numbers, your TWV, your GWV, it's all your responsibility. It's not your team's. It's not up to your team to get you paid at title. It's not up to your team to get you your active frontline. It's up to you. That's your responsibility. And that is one thing that I think it's a bit of a mindset thing, where you're thinking about, like, right, I've recruited all these people and just none of them are doing anything. Like, none of them. That's totally normal. There's obviously things that can happen, like things that you can do to encourage them, but that part of thing is absolutely normal for people to not, that more often than not, people don't do anything. People who actually work are far more rare than people who
Yeah.
do work.
So true. We were saying this before we come on, wasn't we? I was saying if I actually went back, I've now and again I have, like, it comes up in my memories where I've tagged people that were in my director team, like these were the top 10, and I used to do the top 10 images of all my team members. And oh God, how I had the time, because I was working at the time as well. But I used to screenshot all the pictures of all the top 10 people in my team that I put in PRV. And when that came up last, I actually screenshotted it and I crossed out, it sounds really horrible to say that, but I crossed out all the people that were no longer selling Scentsy. And I think out of the top 10, there was something like 2 to 3 of them that were left that were still selling. And you think they're the top 10 of the people that I hit director with. They were like my top 10 producers. And that team has changed so much now. Like, I can probably go back, probably like you can, Sam, we could probably go back and look at our teams, and it's a completely different team, isn't it? Completely different team. And imagine if we had not built and we had just stuck with that same team, which I think is happening quite a lot at the moment, where people, like you say, you've never made it. It's always that team's got to evolve all the time. And if I'd have stuck with that same team, gradually, one by one, we would have lost people, and I might be down to like a group of maybe 12 or 10 people, maybe. I definitely wouldn't be getting paid at director title. Like 100% won't be getting paid at director title.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
So it's quite important to sort of acknowledge that, I think, right at the start.
The thing, like, I was looking at my team, at people who are actively working, and granted, there's some differences to obviously hypergrowth, like taking that out of it, people's business. So if Frank, I can literally see a few of you right in front of me right now, that if I took the hypergrowth section out of your business is growing because you're actively recruiting, you're actively getting new customers, you're actively helping your team grow and building your team. Businesses are growing right now. And this is the thing that, it's never not a possibility in Scentsy, but Scentsy businesses are growing. We're seeing it. I can see it within my downline that Scentsy businesses are massively growing right now. We've got people promoting. We had massive growth last month because we put focus on it. Because we put huge focus on it, we had absolutely phenomenal growth in numbers and in people coming in and actually starting a business because they wanted to. The thing is that people don't always do what they say they're going to do. People lie. And I know we've said this before, and it's very true. People do tell you that they're going to smash it, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and they don't do it. The only person you can rely on really is yourself. That's the only person you can rely on for you to go out and actively build that team. And I know it is like at the beginning when you're getting it really into momentum, it is a little bit exhausting and it is hard work. You're running on momentum, but then it does become more like you start then finding people within your downline who are actively growing and actively building and contributing to that consistent growth as well. But it just takes getting that vehicle moving from you at the beginning. Me and Lisa were talking about it right now. We're very much in the rebuild phase. Or you might be, if you joined after hypergrowth, because I'm almost sick of talking about hypergrowth, but if you've joined after then, you're just in the complete new build phase. And that's what it is. We're always in that phase. I mean, we're never not in the building phase, but at the moment, a lot of people are finding that they're rebuilding because they're replenishing what they lost after hypergrowth. And it's looking at what we've got to focus on. So I read a chapter in my book today, and I was thinking about leadership, and I was reading my book actually when I was at hospital, because I was thinking I want to get some ideas to talk to you guys tonight, and I really loved what I read. So in my book, it was a chapter. So the book is called, and it was really inspiring for me. So it's called Better Than Beach Money. So it was from Jordan Adler, who wrote Beach Money, and it's his sequel. And the book is called Better Than Beach Money. So I was like, okay, because I loved Beach Money. So if it's better, then I'm totally down for it. And like the opening chapter, I was like, oh my God, I need to read this book, because the opening chapter was, he'd literally worked for 10 years, done everything his upline had told him to, you guys might resonate with this, where you see people in your downline, or you might even feel that this is you, where that he did everything his upline told him to, where let's say go speak to 10 people. So he'd go speak to 10 people. Right, I've done it. And he's like, I worked for 10 years and I just didn't get anywhere. And then all of a sudden something changed and something clicked. And then I started seeing results. So you think that's 10 years and he saw little, very little success compared to the work he put in. Like, you guys might feel that yourself, or you might, I know for a fact I am seeing team who are doing everything that I tell them to do, and they deserve success. Like, they genuinely deserve more success than they're getting. And it's probably the hardest part of leadership. When someone's given me an excuse, I know why they're not getting anywhere, because they're giving me excuses. Like, I know that. I can see, well, you're giving me excuses. You're literally putting brick wall, brick wall, brick wall, brick wall up, and you cannot help people when they make excuses. But when someone's making no excuses and they're doing everything and they're showing up, they're coming to all the trainings, they're doing everything you tell them to do, they take part in everything, and they're not moving any further. That's what I personally, I don't know if you agree, Lisa, but that's the bit I personally find the hardest.
It is. I always find, because then it's trying to work out what is it that is going to shift their business into the next gear. And as somebody, when we're coaching people, I find it frustrating for them, because you want to see them do well, because you know they're ticking all the boxes, and you're like,
and they deserve it.
Why is it just not clicking? Like, why? That is really hard. And especially like when you see people turning up for trainings, and they're people that, you know, are putting themselves out there in the groups to share ideas and things that they're doing. Sometimes I'm like, what is it? Like, what's missing? I just can't put my finger on it.
You wish you could give them the success. Like, you guys, a lot of you might feel it or see it yourself, and you're like, oh, and you know it's going to happen, but you know that there's just something not connecting the dots. So this book said this, and I was like, right, I need to read this book, because this, I see a lot of this, what he's just explained. I see that in a lot of people, and I want to know how to help them. And then I started reading the book, and it was just like different chapters about different stories, and I was like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get where this book is going. Like, they were all completely, none of them were connected, but they were all completely different stories. And then as I got like almost 3/4 of the way through, I was like, I get it. Like, I get it now. It was just, I really do recommend it. It was different stories about total different things that were more analogies than anything else, about how you have purpose in your actions, how you don't just do things so you can say, right, I've done that, and check it off. You do it for a reason. There was some really, really powerful stories in there, but one of the stories it said today, and it was one of the things he said today, and I loved it. And he talked about how everybody who sort of goes on a path like what we're all on with our Sensei businesses, there's a point in your life where somebody comes into your life, one person usually, and that person changes the whole trajectory of your whole life. They change the whole direction of your whole life. I literally took a photo of that page and I sent it to the person who changed mine. She's not in Sensei. She's not a Sensei consultant. She was with another company, and I joined that company. Didn't work for me, but she is the person who introduced self-development to me and made me realize that there's more to life. But I just thought, oh my gosh, like, that is like a purpose for leadership. That is what leadership is. Genuinely trying to be that person who can change the trajectory of other people's lives. Like that, I thought that is such an amazing way to look at leadership. So
powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, it was real, because I thought, well, I know exactly who it is, the person who changed mine. I know for a fact who it is. She was the one who completely changed my way of thinking. And that is why mastering leadership, because so many people say, oh, I'm not a natural leader. Nobody's a natural leader. I literally call absolute rubbish on born leaders. I just don't think it's true at all. Like, when you think of like some of the leaders who, it's not about, there's many great ways to be a leader, but there's also many ways to be a terrible leader too. And for me, it's about the fact that within Sensei, mastering leadership means that you can make an income while making a difference. And I thought that was really, really powerful. Striving to show people that there's more to life, make people want to do more and want to strive for more. That's what I feel that leadership is about. And it's, sorry.
I was just going to say, it's a skill as well. And I think it's recognizing that, which is really important. Like, every person sitting here today, there's probably lots of you that think that, I hear it all the time, I'm not a natural leader, I'm not a good leader, I don't know how to be a leader, leadership scares me, all of those negatives around this word. But it's just a skill. Like I didn't wake up and be like, oh, I can be a born leader at the age of 1 at the end of the day. That's, obviously, like my mum always said to me, my mum always says born leader, but that was just because I was very confident and I was probably quite loud, and then that evolved over time. But that's not, I don't ever think that's true. It's a skill. It's something that I know when I first started teaching, for example, like not in anything to do with Sensi, when I first started actually teaching, I wasn't a natural teacher. I was to a degree, but I had to learn a lot. I had to learn, how to challenge a class, how to differentiate a lesson, to pitch it at different levels. I had to learn how to, work with different people, different personality types, how to manage people. It's a bit like any job that you go into, isn't it? Like, it's exactly the same. Like, you have to learn those skills, but the great thing about leadership is it's a skill and it can be learned. Like, it's just practice. It's just practice. But if you don't put yourself out there, it won't happen. You're never going to learn.
And the thing is that even if you, like, some people might think like, oh, to be that person who's going to change the direction of someone's life, you've got to be, we see a lot of network marketers that live in the airport life, working from the sunbed. That doesn't inspire me, and I have no intention of living. I love being at home, and I am absolutely fine with saying I love being at home. I'm more than I like, that's where I'm at my happiest. I have absolutely no interest in being that person. So you don't have to be someone who's living, living from the sunbed. Yeah, like, oh, I'm woken up in Dubai this morning. This means
my dream on Instagram today was literally, I I opened the door and I kid you not, it was stacked with Sensi boxes. And I was like, I just get all excited knowing that my Wonder diffuser shade is in those boxes. And that literally was like, that is why I do this. I am doing that because that shade I got for free. That's what, yeah.
And it's like, even there's a few, I can see, I'm looking at a few of your faces on here, and a few of you guys are just amazing at showing, like, practicing the art of gratitude and sharing that. That is what can change someone's life. A simple, like, seeing somebody being grateful for something and seeing, the brighter side of things, that can change the trajectory of someone's life. Showing that, like, obviously when you bring it into your Sensi business, if you're showing that you love being a consultant, like what Lisa just said, perfect example. I did see the post where she stood there with her boxes higher.
I must admit that I've got a camera roll of pictures. I was like, no, I don't like that picture. No, I don't like that picture. That one's definitely not going on social media. Got my eyes shut. There is a whole wheel of them. I'm not going to lie, but
well, that is what it has to be. Like, when I say you can change lives, you don't need to be somebody who's standing on stage. You don't need to be somebody who is making, you could literally be making £50 a month, or you could be making like literally £0 a month, and you could make a difference and change someone's life just by a simple act of kindness or something.
You make them feel, isn't it?
That's how you make people feel. That is what leadership is. I'm sure
Laura will say the saying, but what's the saying of, like, it's not about something, it's about the way you make people feel. I'm so rubbish with quotes, but you know what I mean.
I'll find it. I know what you mean. I'll find it.
You know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
It's all about the way you make people feel, isn't it? And that can change somebody's life. Like, it really can, massively.
That is what's important, and that is what. So, I mean, we're going to talk about, like, practical stuff as well, but when we just wanted to really start everything off with about leadership being all about you just being the best version of you, trying to be obviously not intentionally, but not, going out, you're being a little bit fake about it, where you're intending to show people you live in your best life and changing the direction of theirs. Like, I literally, when I messaged the girl who changed mine, and she sent me a message back, and she was like, I mean, she's like 10 years younger than me. She was like, Tam, honestly, I'm so freaking proud of you. So proud of you, what you've done. Like, she says, I just love watching you. And I was like, well, I'll never stop thanking you. I'll never, ever stop thanking you for what you've done, for making me think differently. And that's all it takes. Just somebody just making you think a little bit differently.
I love that. Honestly, and I love the fact that you reached out to her and told her that. So maybe like if there's someone that's done that for you, do that. Like tell them that. I bet you made her day as well.
Yeah, she's
That's
a new
massive.
mum as well.
Arrows out. All
Yeah,
that jazz. You know,
definitely.
it's all about the arrows out, isn't it? Should we, so I think that leads on nicely to like, there's people in different positions in this business. Like every single person that's on this call is in a different position in terms of their business at the moment. And I'm going to give you some examples, and then hopefully you're going to see a running common denominator in them all, which is going to make you think, oh, actually, and some of them this might not be relevant to you. So, you know, I might drop some truth bombs. I'm just going to be honest. Okay. I'm just going to put it out there. Get your shield on, get your armor on, because if there might be a truth bomb and actually I always think when someone drops a truth bomb and you go, oh God, that hurt, that to me actually says, oh, that's something I've got to work on. That's something that's how I always look at it. So okay, so there's different types of leaders, and I'm not going to talk about like in terms of the way people lead. This is more we're going to talk about actually within your business. Okay, so just have a little listen to these. So maybe you're the type of leader that is getting your 500 PRV, but like we've just talked about, none of your team are sponsoring, none of your team are growing, maybe some of them have stopped. And the focus for you, ideally, or for that person, is going to be to start sponsoring. But to be able to start sponsoring, it's going to go further than that, and you've got to go back to building a new customer base. So maybe if that's you and you're thinking, I get my 500, I'm doing my bit, I'm getting my 500, I am working and I'm actively trying to find people, that's going to be that starting place for you. Maybe you're somebody that struggles to get your 500 PRV consistently. Your team may or may not be working, and you're struggling to maybe get paid at title. And if that's the case, for you, that starting point is going to be going back to building your customer base, because that, again, you need your 500 PRV. We can't talk about compensation plan because there's just too much tonight to talk about. What we said we'll put that as a topic somewhere further down the line. But that is going to be like that starting point. You need to be going back to building that customer base so you can get your 500 PRV consistently, absolutely consistently. Maybe you're somebody that's getting your 500 PRV, and your team you're getting team figures in terms of getting paid at title, but maybe you don't have the active frontline. And again, it's going to come back to the fact that you need to sponsor. And if you need to sponsor, you're going to need to build your customer base to be able to do that. Have you seen there's a common denominator in all of them examples that I've just given? I mean, they're just examples of like people that aren't necessarily growing. And I know that there are going to be people on here tonight that you are getting your 500 PRV, and maybe you're not quite getting that, that GWV for that next promotion point, but maybe you're getting paid at title. And again, like focus comes back to that same place exactly again, sponsoring and growing and building your customer base. There's literally a focus that's hopefully coming out in every single example that I've just given you there. What's the focus? Somebody share with us in the chat. Like, what's the common denominator in all of them? Hopefully someone. Hopefully I've explained that and it's not too like.
Working as a team?
No. Emma, new customers. Yeah, Shell, new customers. And who's it starting with? Meeting new people. Us, you. Boom. There it is. It's got to start with you. And I think that's something we discussed a lot earlier, didn't we? I think every time we were talking, every time it was coming back to, oh, but it starts with us. Every time it comes back to, you can't build your teams for your customers. You can't build your team's team however much you want to. Trust me, I've been in that position where I'm like, I just want to sponsor for them. I just want, because I know they're going to be amazing. But it's got to start with you. It's 100% got to start with you. You need to be the one that is showing the way, leading the way, showing your teams what could be done. It doesn't matter whether they just want to put in their 200. That's absolutely fine. I love that. I mean, our businesses are built on having lots and lots of, you know, certified consultants that are putting in 200 PRV. If you had enough, imagine having enough certified consultants to make up your title pay every single month, and then just having your leaders or a bonus on top of that. That's how we need to think of that business. But it's going to always come back to you guys. Just you guys being here is like a massive stepping stone on that anyway. Like, that's a massive thing, I think, being here and on this training tonight. So did you want to add anything to that, Dan?
Yeah, just what someone put in the comment is, I can't remember who wrote it, but about meeting new people, and that is absolutely crucial. And I think last month we did a lot of sponsoring focus last month, and I was saying it, and it's exactly the same for customers. If you are struggling to find new customers and you are struggling to find new team members, you need to go do the work and find new people. And me and Lisa both talked about times in our businesses where we plateaued, because we all go through it. We absolutely all go through plateaus, ebbs, flows. I can absolutely, like, I could list a few of the faces I can see on here. I know you guys have been through it too. And it always comes back to talking to people, building connections, building relationships, doing all those things. And that's what's important. And that's what's massively what it all comes back to. And once you start doing that again, everything starts moving again.
Yeah, because not only that, as soon as you start doing that again, I've found that when I look at my business and I think, God, things feel a bit stagnant, and then I go, right, that's it, I'm just going to put my focus into finding those new customers and partying or borrow bags getting out or referrals, or, you know, all of those different things that you can do, and not making excuses. Because I've been one of those people that sat here and gone, well, my customers don't want to party, they don't want to party, or, you know, I find it hard to meet new people, or it's excuses. That's me saying, oh, okay, I'm allowing this barrier to be here, and I'm leaning on that and going, well, you know, that, you know, I can't do that because, and actually you've got, as a leader, you've got to be able to be like, do you know what, this is just going to become, it's that whole thing of that negative becoming your superpower, and be like, right, I need to find a way to be the best, you know, networker. It's that networking. And sometimes we get so caught up in making pretty images and you know, making sure that we're posting on groups and going live in this group and showing our face in that group, and we get so caught up in doing all of those things that actually sometimes we just need to stop all of that and focus on networking.
Do you know what? This book, right, I've just started reading it today. Heidi Westmoreland recommended it to me, and I've only read a little bit, but I was just reading the intro, and he was talking about how he wrote the F***CK leadership book, which is phenomenal, like my favorite leadership book ever. It's called Josh Coates. Anyway, he was talking about the time when he'd read that book, and he launched it for £1 a book on Amazon, and he, as a digital read, and he said he was doing coaching calls that he was getting paid like £200 or $200, I think, actually $200 for. And he said, I literally stopped focusing on those coaching calls to work on getting this book, the momentum of this book launch, the one for like a $1 book, that sale that I was getting. He said, that's all I was worried about. I actually took my eye off like what was really bringing in my financial, like my income. And he says, I got to the point, and my book did really well, but I was like I was getting £1 a book. Obviously I had to pay other royalties, I had to pay Amazon, etc. And he said, I ended up losing like a lot of money, and I couldn't afford my house. And I thought that, obviously it didn't explain that exactly, but I thought this is what happens a lot with us, where we get sidetracked with worrying about followers. How many people get completely obsessed with followers on social media? And obviously, like, a successful social media account is important, but what's really important is what is going on that nobody sees, all in the background, all those relationships and stuff. I thought, because he says he got totally burnt out, and he couldn't give coaching calls and do trainings and stuff like that. That was, you know, he'd get paid $10,000 to do a training or whatever, because he was so burnt out, because he was so focused on other stuff. And I thought that is actually such a relevant thing for us as well, to focus on what's actually building your business. Followers, it doesn't matter what the numbers is. Like I managed to increase my Instagram followers, but it certainly didn't increase my sales. It wasn't that was increasing my sales. It was the other stuff that I was doing that was increasing my sales.
Yeah, it literally is all about where you put your focus as well. And I think we just, and not just followers, Tam, I think it, you know, all sorts. I see it in sometimes in our team groups where you see people sharing the most amazing things. And I think, I just want you to stop sharing for a minute and actually go and get 3 new customers and then come back and you can share when you've got 3 new customers. And that's where you need to work out is, where's that gap in your business like right now? Where do you need to put your focus? Like if it's sponsoring, then you need to go back further than that. And I feel like we've said this before on training calls that we've done before, and I feel like and I will keep repeating the same thing over and over again because it doesn't change. And it doesn't change when you get to superstar director. It doesn't change if you're an annual mentor, regular earner. It doesn't change if you hit annual sales every single year. You know, all of us have focuses where we need to put our focus. And I can tell you, like, categorically, if that customer base does not grow and does not change, it doesn't matter whether you're the best sponsor in the world. You could sponsor all the people. If that customer base then doesn't grow, you've got no one left to ask. And that's the bottom line. You want to be able to keep doing both. And it is about finding balance. And that's not easy. That's not easy in itself. But balancing your business, being a leader, balancing, you know, the leadership side of things and all of that, it's tough. It's not easy. And I'm definitely not going to be one of them people that says, yeah, it's so easy. It's not easy. But when if you can get that balance right, and you can get that balance of the amount of networking that you need to do, not stop networking, you know, where you're putting your time, you know, it's got to become, your business has got to come first, always, no matter what. And I know that when things feel a little bit slow, I'm always like, hold on a minute, it goes back to me. I need to take that, you know, if sometimes I don't answer messages as quickly as people would probably like me to be, but that's because I'm focusing on my business first. I'm making sure that my customers have all got the answers to all the questions they've been told, how much their order is, you know, have I taken their money? Have I sent out my follow-ups? Have I got my 500 by, for me, the 2nd of the month? Normally the 1st I would like it to be, but that doesn't always happen. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it's like the 3rd, which then I get really disappointed on myself. But that's just because of what the focus that I put on myself, where I want my business to be. And I think that, you know, it's a tough balance. It's a tough balancing act.
What you said there about the balance, that was the next thing we wanted to talk about, was balancing leadership, where so people, you bring a team in and you feel responsible and stuff like that. We want to, the goal is to build financial freedom. So I read this chapter in my book today. A lot of my stuff started like that. I'm so sorry, but these chapters were just like, oh my god, yes.
But it's so relevant, Tam, because it's actually part of being a good leader. And I always say this when I always read some of your posts. Sometimes I'm like, I loved your post, and you're like, it's because I was reading this book.
Yeah.
And I always know that when I've not got inspiration as a leader, it's because I'm not reading books or podcasts or listening to stuff. And it's so true.
It gives you a lot of fun. And no, it's fine. So Jordan, obviously I feel like we're on first name. Oh yeah.
Firstly.
He was walking down, I could be wrong, so if I say this slightly wrong, but he was walking down a harbour and he saw all these ships out there, and obviously each one had someone sailing them. And he says, I went on one of the ships and I spoke to the sailor, the guy sailing the ship, and I said to him, do you still talk to your instructor? And he was like, no, I learned to sail 20 years ago. I've literally, since I learned how to sail, I never spoke to my instructor again, never. And he was like that, and he says it just made me think how within network marketing, so an instructor will teach people to sail, and then each one of those people will go off and they will literally sail around the world. And they'll just sail wherever they want to do. But they don't need to, you know, the instructor is not like ringing up, right, it's going to be a bit of bad weather here today, guys. Oh, there's going to be, like, you need to be careful of this today, guys. Some of those people he teaches won't do anything. They'll decide that sailing's not for them. Some of those people will go and absolutely smash it and teach hundreds and hundreds of other people how to sail. But he doesn't speak to them every day. Like, he probably doesn't speak to them again once they know what they're doing. Now, I know that within Sensi and within direct selling, it's about community. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not like, the community is what makes me stay. Like, I love that. But I was like, God, people have got to stop relying on their upline to get them work in their businesses every day. Like, they don't need to be told to work. They just need to go out, get in a ship and sail it. So it made me think about micromanaging. Obviously, like if the instructor was ringing the sailors every single day, he'd be micromanaging them. And I Googled what micromanaging was within network marketing. And it's micromanaging is where someone feels that they need to be in control of every part of their downline, that they need to be the one training them, giving them answers, giving them news. They need to be the one giving them information. It's actually very, very toxic to micromanage your downline, and it can completely like destroy them having any success whatsoever, because one, they'll feel inadequate because they'll feel like you don't trust them, and also they'll never ever feel that they'll be able to do it without you. Like the goal is you want your downline to be able to feel like they could do it without you, that even if you needed, like I had to take a day out today, obviously I read a lot of books, so Lily was not up to much, so I was just sat reading. But if you need to take a day out, if you want to go on holiday, that you're not the one having to do that. That is the goal. That is the dream of this business, that these people are going to work their businesses anyway, and you are not micromanaging them. So the best way to, obviously the way to do this is to inspire people to work their businesses and then be inspired, and not you being the one that's constantly motivating them, because that is exhausting. That is an absolute one-way trip to burnout when you feel like you are the one. Obviously there's times where you really realize that you have to be the one in the driving seat. We all go through that, and that's about, you know, business focus, analyzing your business, realizing what it needs. But you can't make that consistent. You can't make that the business plan where you're the one consistently inspiring people. That can't be your full-time business plan, because you are going to be absolutely exhausted. So the best way to work your business is to obviously inspire people by sharing the opportunity, sharing the business plan, the business model itself. Like I share the business model itself regularly, what this business model is. I had a business, like not a brick and mortar business, because I worked from home, it was online, but I had to do everything. I had to do all the ordering materials, all the making, all the marketing, all the, you know, something went wrong, like if it broke, I would have to replace it, all that kind of stuff. It was hard work. Direct selling is totally different to that. The products are all made, they're in a factory, they're in a warehouse all ready for us to sell and ship. And we get to, rather than them paying like celebrity endorsements or giving a cut to shops for wholesale prices, etc., we get the commission. So that is what I try and explain over and over again, the direct selling business model, and letting people see the opportunity, but also working your own business. There's nothing more inspiring than watching somebody else work. There is the absolute, like someone who's not just showing the way, but they're actually going the way. That is really inspiring. That is going to get your team to work, and they will follow you. They will absolutely follow you. You don't need to, it's not someone who tells them what to do. It's someone who shows them what to do. Encourage idea sharing. That's something that encourage, and turning your spotlight on them, not being the one who needs the spotlight on you for being the one who shares all the ideas. Like absolutely spotlight. You know, some of you might not be in this place right now where you've got the team to do this, but it's definitely worth bearing in mind in the future for when your team does grow, because your team will grow if you're actively focusing on it, where you're shining your spotlight on them as individuals for growing and for sharing and for shining. Like it's about them, not about you. That massively encourages them to become independent and to become inspired to work themselves. Culture, absolutely love the culture side of Sensi. It's really hugely important to me, hugely what makes me excited to, you know, one of the main things I'm excited to do every morning is speak to everybody within our culture. Like I absolutely love it. That's something that I really do love. I love the culture, and it's encouraging that culture by being the culture. The best way to get people to be part of the culture is you being the culture, you showing how you want people to behave, because they will follow you. And a simple method of communication. So we were saying, you know, obviously you need to communicate with your downline, whether you're a lead consultant or a superstar director. Communication with your downline is important, but it's not your job to put everything on a plate for them. It's not your job to let them know their news tab's been updated. It's not your job to let them know that there was a price error. You know, we've all got access to the exact same workstation. However, a method of communication, whether that be a WhatsApp broadcast, whether that be a little team page, but being independent, absolutely. And open them up to other resources. Don't have them relying on just you as their resource. That is absolutely vital. Share other leaders. Let them get access to as many people within Sensi as they possibly can, because that is how I've grown. That's how Lisa's grown. We've accessed lots of other leaders that are not just in our upline, and we've learned from them and grown from them. Show them as many as you can. Show them what you watch them, and then show them. You watch them on YouTube and then show them, and that is what you will grow people so much by doing that.
I think as well, it's really important for you to think about, if you're, for any reason that you needed to take time away from your business, for example, you were poorly, you go on holiday and you want to just have a holiday, that doesn't happen very much for me, but you know what I mean. Or say, for example, this was in the book that I've just finished, Freakishly Effective something leadership. I can't remember what it's called. But that book, he said, if you got hit by a bus today, God forbid, not going to happen, touch wood, but if you got hit by a bus today,
could
your business survive? Yeah. Could your business survive? Would your team still keep working, or would they just be like, oh, my leader's stopped, so I'm not going to do anything? Would your culture still keep going? And that the only way that that's going to happen is if you give them access to other people. And you can feel really insecure about it sometimes. It's completely natural to feel a little bit like, oh, they're getting inspiration from somewhere else. Completely natural, right? That is a natural feeling. I don't think if somebody, but at the same time, what you've got to remember is, if they're getting inspiration from somewhere else, one, is less work for you to do. Two, not everybody's inspired by the same people. Like, who inspires Tam might not inspire me, and who inspires me might not inspire Laura, and so on. And you might actually, some people might not get any inspiration or feel inspiration from their leader, and it doesn't matter. They could be the most inspirational person ever, right? That I think that I sit there and go, oh my God, are you joking? Like, I am so inspired by that person. But different personalities attract different people. So you need to give your team that opportunity to, be inspired by different people. People I like people that are like telling me, giving me practical tips. I love people that are literally, this is how I did it. This is what I did. This is what worked for me. And, sometimes I'm up for seeing people that are a little bit, I suppose hardcore is the right word for it. But that works for me, because I'm like, yep, brilliant. I'm inspired. Off I go. And I will put that action in. Whereas somebody else might watch that type of training and be like, oh, I can't watch that person. They scare the life out of me. So everyone gets inspired by different people. And it's really important that you open your teams up to YouTube, reading books, being inspired by other people in different network marketing companies. Don't be afraid. And other SSDs and other directors, like, don't be afraid if your team member says, oh, I was really inspired by another director. I love that. I love it when my directors and my team meet people from other team and they get inspired. I think it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But that again has been a skill in itself to learn over the last 5 years. I don't think I was really told, oh, that's okay. And it's not something that I found particularly easy at the beginning. Like, I'm quite honest about that. I found that a little bit.
Do you know what I think it is? I don't think people talk about it. The feeling of, it's an insecurity that if you feel like you've got to be the one, and you are, and I'm going to use the word, and it does sound a little bit dramatic, but almost depriving your team of other leaders, that is because you're insecure, and you just need to do a little bit of work on you. And you just need to realize what value you give. You don't need to be the person who's giving them everything, because if you are, you'll be absolutely exhausted. And if your wheels slow down, so will your teams. You want your team's wheels to keep going, even if you do need to slow yours down a little bit.
Yeah. Which is important when you've got to take a day to unplug. Sometimes everyone needs to do it at times. So, if they know that they can go and find inspiration elsewhere, and, amazing, brilliant.
Yeah, it's almost not fair on your team. And I know people, it's not, I've seen it in so many people, and they're not bad people, they're not selfish people, but they're just they want to be the one that is inspiring their team, and they want to be the one where their team get all their resources from. And it just doesn't work. Your team will grow so much more when you encourage them to learn from others, and you encourage them to grow and be part of like even bigger communities than the one that you're creating. That's what you want. Like the whole Sensi community is amazing, absolutely amazing. Like you want them to do that. There's nothing that makes me happier than when I see my downline building relationships within other people, within different legs of my downline, or within Lisa or Laura's downline, or any other downline. You know, it's amazing just building relationships with Sensi consultants, because obviously they've got that one thing in common. And it's really, really, really powerful. And it means that if you do, you know, something happens, something takes you out the game for a little bit, your team is still going to be there for each other. And they're not just going to be like, stop because you stopped. And it's the right thing to do, because it's absolutely going to exhaust you otherwise. You're just going to, and you're also going to feel funky. Like if you see your team being excited by someone else and it makes you feel a little bit like, oh, that's just, it's a you problem, and you've just got to work on it, and you can get over it. We've all been there, all of us, everyone's been there. But
also, you've got to think that as your team grows, it might be easy to be their world and to be their center while you've got a team of 10. But imagine when your team's a team of 1,000, how are you going to give yourself to all 1,000 of those people and make sure that you're the one giving them all of the resources, all of the time? It is impossible. And trust me, we've been there, we've done that, and we you know, it's impossible. You can't physically be there for all of those people. So like Tam said, you will end up burning yourself out. So you've got to be excited for them to get resources from elsewhere.
And you've got to let them grow. You've got to let them grow, because they're not, that if you're just trying to keep them to yourself, you're massively suppressing their growth. Let them grow, shine your light on them, and let them grow even bigger and better than what they ever dreamed possible. That is the dream. That is the absolute goal, and that is the dream, that people shine so bloody bright that you need to put your sunglasses on.
And yeah, definitely. And not everyone's going to want to grow like that, which, you know, we talk about the unicorns, and when you do find them, they're the ones to, you know, build those relationships with, and make sure you've got a good relationship with them, definitely, and their teams. But yeah, they don't have to do it. That's the other thing as well, is to be aware that not everybody has to do it how you do it. And I think this is a mistake that I think I see quite a lot of leaders maybe making. They want everybody to do it just the way that they do it, when actually, realistically, what you've got to think is you can show people how you do it, but actually being a good leader is then saying to people, now I want you to find, here's the goal, like here's the focus, to sponsor 3 people, and look, this is how I did it, but you could do it a completely different way. I don't mind how you do it. Here's some different ways. Find what works best for you, and then you show your team exactly the same. Here's how I did it. Here's how Lisa did it. But actually find something that works for you, because I think there's a lot to be said as well for making sure that, you know, it's not always about just how you do it. Like you giving somebody a script, you've got to do it this way, you need to do it that way, you need to just say this, just say that. It doesn't work like that. Everybody's so different and everyone's so individual, and you've got to embrace that. So I think that's a really big thing.
You said earlier, like the way, like we all have our own systems that work for us, and like, to be completely frank, a system, it doesn't have to be like a sheet of paper that you tick off. A system can just be something that you do repeatedly. I have many systems, and I've been like told everybody that I have no systems, and then I was like, Jesus, I've loads of systems, I do loads of things over and over again. But you were talking about somebody who's very successful. I don't know if it's all right saying it, but
no, I was like, just talk about her as a successful person.
very, very, not within Sensi, but a very, very inspirational, amazing network marketer who is just like pours value into the world like no one I've ever known in my life. However, she's very system driven. That's not me. I'm not the way she is. I couldn't tick the sheets like her. But you've got to have the understanding that her systems are not always going to work everybody else, and it's really important to help, you know, realize that I could share with you my systems. I mean, my systems are absolute like children's systems, using emojis in my notes section. That is simplistic.
That's what it's all about, right? The simplicity of leadership.
Yeah, that's my system, and that's not going to work for all of you guys. Some of you guys need like sheets of paper. And me and Lee have got 2 different follow-up systems, and we've got the same business. Lee does my PWS order follow-up. I do my customers who come to me in order. I use emojis. Lee uses a diary and writes names down. So it's 2 completely different.
I use emojis. I use crayons and paints. No, but honestly, it's also about like being okay with the fact that someone's going to do it a different way to you. But at the same time, you've still got to show them. You've still got to show them the way and say, look, this is how I'm doing it. That might not work for you, which is okay. And if you find a better way to do it, you don't share it,
isn't it? It's not always how you're doing it, because obviously how you're doing it might not be the exact right way. You know, some things I do, like something Lisa did, like she told me to do something you probably can't even remember. She told me to do something the other day, and I was like, well, a couple of weeks ago, I was like, no, not doing it. I'm not doing it. Yeah. So some things, but it worked amazingly for her, but I was just like, I'm not doing it. So it's, some things work for some people and they just don't for others. So it's just, so we just wanted to finish, unless Lisa's got anything else. We're going to try and keep this to an hour, but we wanted to finish with some action tasks just to give you some practical stuff to take away.
Massively. That's the most important bit, because now you've done the training, and I'm really big on this at the moment. Whatever training you watch, personal development you do, say you do an hour of personal development, then you need to go away and do 20% of action. So whatever time you spend, so time, if you've spent like all day reading a book, you've got to find 20% in there to go and action what you've read, because otherwise it's pointless. So it's all well and good showing up tonight, taking all this information in, but if you now don't go and action 20% off of this, what's
I feel like you're telling me off. I'm like,
sorry. Make sure you do your action.
All these guys, I'm giving the gift of what I've read today to all these guys.
You did. But it's now about like actually actioning something in your personal business that you can now go away and share with your team. So we've got a few different things, didn't we, that we come up with. So the first is, if you haven't got one already, is to come up with a really simple method of communication for you and your team. I use WhatsApp broadcast. It works for me. I can broadcast 200 people in one hit. Boom, your news tab has updated. I am that leader that will, I do send out that. Some people don't, I do.
But this is only if you've got a working team. You might not have a working team, and that's fine. Then there's obviously other things that you need to focus on, but that's absolutely fine. So if you've got a working team.
If you haven't got a working team, don't even stress about that. It's not even worth thinking, is it?
But you could plan for the future, because obviously you're gonna have a working team very soon.
You are, and you will start networking and building your customer base. Okay, number 2 was you can talk about personal development. Personal development, because that is literally.
Yeah, so I'm not going to apologize for it, because I feel like I always apologize for it when I'm saying it. But seriously, guys, if you are serious about this business, you have to do personal development. You have to. You can only go as far as you grow, and it is absolutely crucial. There is no escaping it. If you want to grow your business, and if you want to live the best life possible, you have to do personal development. So identify where it is you need to focus on. So, you know, there's so many that's exactly it, Laura. You've got to grow the person and you will grow the business. I promise you. It absolutely, everything we've said tonight, it comes down to you. And if you're working on you, then your business is growing. It's absolutely crucial. You know, I literally, like I said, I sat for about 1,000 hours today in hospital. That's what it felt like. And I literally just
100 hours of fraction. Is that even 20%? Even that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Jesus, I shouldn't have said that. 200 hours. But literally, I just did as much personal development I could possibly do. It's Sarah, not Michael. Personal development I want to read and learn, but I swear I don't know where to start and what to read first. I would well, it's about where you want to. This is what the action point is, figuring out what it is that you do need to focus on. So for example, if it's leadership, definitely get the Josh Coates F***CK leadership book. That is amazing. Or the Freakishly Effective leadership book is phenomenal. Those are great leadership books. If it's network marketing, then like the whole business model, then Sarah Robbins, how to grow your network marketing business. If it's your mindset, I mean, Laura's probably going to throw some good mindset books in there. But The Secret, I know Laura loves The Secret. That's a really good mindset book about obviously just changing your way of thinking, the magic, things like that. There's so many different books. The Slight Edge was the first book I ever read, and it was like, oh my God, I get it. Like, I get consistency, because I was literally sleeping in my dining room, and it was just a total different, like, my life was so different. We were drowning in debt. Everything was so difficult for us. And I read that book and I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And it just changed absolutely everything for me. Atomic Habits. What's the other one? The Compound Effect.
Compound Effect. You raved about that when we were doing Level Up.
I love that book. And you know what? I think I have given away. I've stopped giving away. I buy the books now for people because I'm in the position to do that. But I think there's nothing better than the gift of personal development. Like, if I have a book that has made a difference, I want someone else to experience it as well. Mel Robbins is a fab one. She's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I find thinner books are better for me. If it's thick, I get overwhelmed. I stop reading it. I get bored. I put it off. But thinner books, like this one's a good one for me. Beach Money.
Freakishly Effective Leadership is like thin, isn't it? It's only 100 pages.
Yeah, Beach Money.
Also, I will just add on this, guys. If you're somebody that doesn't read, that's okay. Like, Audible is bloody brilliant. Like, I listened to the end of that whole book, I think half of that book, literally while I was walking the dog. And in the time I walked the dog, the chapters are so short and sweet. And by the time I got home, I was like, whoa, I'm buzzing. So it doesn't always have to, it could be a podcast, it could be YouTube training. I think I said earlier, if you feel like maybe your business is not where you want it to be in terms of Sensei, and you're struggling with that mentally in terms of like you're feeling quite negative towards your business, start with something like personal development, like the magic, or something along that sort of side that is all about you. It's something that's going to be like to help you, as opposed to just delving straight into Sensei support, if that makes sense. Whereas if your business is starting to grow, I would probably go more down the business development type books personally. That's how I gauge it to what you need.
With people who say they can't read, I started because I couldn't afford books. I bought one book and then I couldn't really afford anymore, so I used to just watch YouTube. And I watched Tony Robbins on YouTube so much, and his story about like his life, like, I don't know if you've ever heard his life before. What he's done with his life is unbelievable. But he was brought up by, his mother was a drug addict. He had absolutely the most tragic upbringing. And he had, I'm sure it was like $16 in his pocket to his name. He had nowhere to live, nowhere to sleep. And he gave someone else, he saw someone who needed that $16 more than him, and he gave what he had to them. He gave like his last $16 to them. And then what he did from that, just by that little act of giving, and then just the life that he's then brought, and the lives he's changed were just phenomenal. So definitely Tony Robbins is a good one. He's very motivational. He's got a really nice gruff voice as well. Very easy to listen to.
So far we've got, you've got a month basically to do this, guys, to find some sort of personal development to get stuck into over the next month, to come up with some sort of system to be able to communicate with your team. And then the other one was to identify where you need to focus to grow. So for example, if it's that, things are going quite well, but you're not quite getting paid at title, then obviously that growth of team is going to be so important, and that focus on sponsoring. So it might be that you're spending like, how am I gonna do that? Like, I hear all the time, I need to sponsor, or, oh, I need more customers. It's not about what you need. It's now about what's the action plan that's going to make that happen. And I talked a little bit about this at World Tour, like actually writing down, what you need and where you want to get to, and then what are the tasks that you need to do to get there. So what's the action plan that that's actually going to take you from, needing more new customers? Okay, so what am I going to do? What are those actions that I am going to put in place, and how am I going to, time block that over the next month before I get on the call, so that when I get onto the next call with Lisa and Tam next month when we're doing leadership, I can say, do you know what I did? I spent some time focusing on finding new customers. This is what I did. And look at the impact it's had. I've had 20 new customers last month and 2 of them joined. That's the type of action that we want to see. And I know it's not always going to be that positive, but again, it's got to start with you. We can't do it for you. We can sit here and inspire and give you all the action tasks in the world, but you need to be the one to come up with, you know, how you're going to do it and how you're going to drive forward with it. Now, if you're really struggling with that, you've all got directors and SSDs that I'm sure will be willing to support you. There will be someone around you that you can reach out to them and have a conversation. If you really don't know where to start, but don't reach out to somebody and say, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this. You've got to be coachable. You've got to be able to, you know, take ideas and suggestions and then run with it, or come up with the ideas and suggestions yourself. You guys know what you need to do.
Yeah, nobody knows better than you.
Before. Yeah, and I think everyone here got to a title of whatever your title is right now. You did that before, so what did you do then? You just need to do it again. It is that simple. Was there any more? Is that all of our tasks?
I think that was it.
Oh, one more. Sorry, I know there's a lot. You need to share something. You've got a month to
Oh,
share
yeah,
at least
I did write
one post, okay? One post, one idea, one share in your director and your SSD group. And you can copy and paste the same post in both groups. But we would love to see all of you in here just share something, you know, share an idea, share something that you've done. Maybe, you know, if you create your action plan and you find a new customer, share how you did that and say, look, this has worked for me. It might not work for you. And some of you might be avid sharers already. And if you are somebody that shares 10 times a day, yours is going to be the opposite. Stop sharing and go and focus on what you need to focus on.
It might even be a quote or just a little experience where somebody who's been watching you. I get a lot of these shares in my group and I love them, where someone will say, guys, I've just had somebody order who's been in my group for like 2 years. It just proves that people are always watching like that. I love that because it just reminds people that there's always, you know, don't ever give up. That consistency. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. But it's just contributing in a way that's meant something to you and it will resonate with somebody else. Definitely.
We'll just add as well, if anyone has got like things that you're really struggling with within the leadership realms, like reach out to us and we can add these into our like trainings that we're going to do, and hopefully we'll get some special guests on as well. I think it'd be quite nice.
Yeah,
the coming months.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay guys, right, I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm going to end the recording, just otherwise it'll take